Good day, ladies and gentlemen. As they say from down under Brisbane, Australia, welcome to David Nair on Air. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand this broadcast is viewed by audiences across the globe. India, Australia, South Africa, UAE, USA, Canada, Northern Europe, Southeast Asian countries. I'm thrilled to welcome each of you to the particular segment that we're conducting today. And I'm going to ask the guest speaker. Today, the session I'm going to cover will be slightly different to norm. I wanted to penetrate with a lot more stories of the pain this lady has gone through, primarily so people can understand what it is like to come out of a refugee environment. Who is David Nair? David Nair is a peak performance strategist, keynote speaker, author of a book titled I Excel Wired for Success. My key purpose is to bring such events on air primarily to create a mindset shift, a heart set shift, and a soul set shift in 1 million people across the globe, leaving behind a legacy of hope. This weekly broadcast is not just selected based on topics or people. It's done with a lot of research from my team who look at for the best of the best in the industry that we're trying to pull together. And we felt the need to get into the refugee environment primarily because the pain that's there currently is more than what we expect. And I'm currently going to bring in the next couple of weeks a few other keynote speakers in this platform on refugee from the United Nations. My team and I spend the time scouting for these people, so it is a job that is done with a lot of effort. Ladies and gentlemen, the speaker today is Kim Huong Tran. Just a short bio of Kim. Thank you so much, Kim. Just a short bio of Kim. Kim is a passionate doctor of dentistry, an entrepreneur, a private practice, online social, dancer, fitness woman, mindset, mind wellness, life coach. She also runs a mastermind called Sparkle Fierce Souls. Aspiring author, public speaker, humanitarian, and, mark this word, a former boat person fleeing from Vietnam. We're going to touch on that today. In fact, after talking with Kim, I felt it was vital that we break this up into two segments. One segment is the journey to freedom, or a life of free enterprise, and then how she climbed up from there, both comparing the changes in her mind. Welcome, Kim. How are you?
Thank you so much, David. It's an honor to be invited to be in this broadcast. I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fabulous. Hey, listen, let's deep dive into this. Rather than tell us the whole story, I'm going to go through from stages of your growth age-wise. So if you can just share your story as a child in Vietnam, what was it like?
So I was born in 1971, October, and as we know from history, the fall of Vietnam, the fall of Saigon, where the North took over the South, was in 1975, specifically April 30th, 1975. So I grew up in a very loving home, young parents. My parents, young. My dad was in the military, in the South Vietnamese military. My mom worked had a college degree, and she worked at a electric company, and it's called Thủ Đức, and it's in the town Thủ Đức. And so I was really loved, cared for by both sides of the family. But then the 1975, when the fall came, that was a stark change and came into darkness for a lot of us.
Do you recall the early days of the Vietnam Fall?
Yes, I do. So I was probably 3 or 4. I remember in my maternal grandparents' house, they would have a wood plank in one of the bedrooms, and it's high up, and we would hide underneath that when we hear, bombs going off, or I would hear something. My grandparents would tell me, go run in there and just sit in that corner underneath a really thick wood plank. And we used it as a bed and everything. So I remember just hearing noises just explosion noises, and just my parents and my grandparents say, just go hide, just go hide.
Right, right. You were saying your dad was in the military, the Vietnam military.
The South Vietnamese
Now,
military, yes, sir.
right. When it fell, obviously a lot of these people who were part of the forces were captured and taken away.
Yes.
Right. Now, how old were you then when your dad was taken as a victim of the Viet Congs?
So the fall, the actual Independence Day, as they call, a reunification day for Vietnam, was April 30th, 1975. So I would only be 3.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
3.5 years old, and I remember that day very distinctly. My mom held me back at the gate of our house, my grandparents' house, and my dad was being escorted out by some armed military. I had no conception or no comprehension of what was going on. And he walked away, and I'm like, daddy, 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 where you going? I want to hug you. And he just turned around and he said, I need to answer some questions and I'll be back. um and that was the last time I saw him.
Right. Right.
Can I add on to before the fall, before that April 30th? Since my dad was a captain of the South Vietnamese Army and he was in telecommunications, so his ranking was was high up there. Before the fall, in the history books, or the films, they would film helicopters or planes taking off and taking us away. My dad was offered a plane to take his whole family to go to the U.S. And since he loved his country so much, he loved Vietnam so much. He said he cannot abandon his country, and did not think that it's going to get that bad. So he refused the plane ride for all our family to stay back, and in hopes that it's not going to be that bad.
Right.
He
Right.
didn't understand what communism was.
Right. I'm coming that later downstream. I want to actually drill into communism. The reason why I say that is the awareness, the conscious awareness of the community outside of certain communistic countries, and especially though I was exposed to it, I'm still limited in my intelligence and knowledge of it. Why do I say that? I had the exposure of the Vietnam War coming in from Malaysia, and we had the Allied forces, and they used to use Penang as a base to get to Vietnam. And more than that, I then migrated to Australia as a student, and we were marching here as the conscription was taking place
Wow.
to send troops to Vietnam to stop the barricade of the Viet Congs coming south.
Right.
And so, this is a story that's very close to my heart too. So when your dad got caught and when he went off, what happened to you? Who took care of the family? I know your mom was there and your grandparents were there.
So my mom was only 22, 23 when she had me. So she was probably, 26, 27, very young lady. My parents had bought a house right next to my paternal grandparents. But when my dad was taken away, my mom abandoned that house. So dad's parents just took care of the house right next to it. So my mom took me back into her parents' house. So my grandparents from my mom's side, they took care of me. My mom, she was thrown immediately, you know, um, into a single mother. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what the future holds. Doesn't know where her husband is. Fortunately, she was employed by the power company, electric company of Vietnam. So she had a
Right,
job, but she was gone from dawn to dusk. She was gone. So really, my grandparents took care of me. Mostly my grandmother, my grandfather, my maternal grandmother, father is the one that very dear to me. And then my mom is one of 11 children. So I
Uh,
had a lot of aunts and uncles, and everyone was living in one house.
right,
When the communists came, they would just take people's property, get people's houses, and just throw them out. And we were lucky, we still had that one house, and everyone was in there. 11 kids, my mom's brothers and sisters, and two parents, and myself.
right, right. Your dad, how long was he held a prisoner?
He was taken. So in 1975, he was not released. He was. Had no plans to release him because of his ranking and where he was working, and they thought he had intel because he was in telecommunications. So
Right.
so he essentially eventually escaped.
Uh-huh.
Mastermind his escape from concentration camp.
Right. Did he share his concentration camp stories with you?
Definitely, definitely. I remember my plight was to find where my dad is.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, from 1975 up to 1979, 80, every month my mom would leave in the morning, early morning, one day, and come back late or the next day. She was doing that, and I didn't know what she was doing. And then I finally asked her, "Mom, what are you doing?" I go, "Oh," she answered, "I'm bringing food. I'm bringing food mostly and clothes to your dad." So I go, "Mom, can I come next time? I want to come." Several times she went without me because it was so dangerous. The trek was so dangerous. To where they took him was in the forest with nothing. They just starve him and they work. They develop the land. He had nothing to eat. So he so the one time that I got to go with my mom, I woke up. I remember waking up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. My mom would pack all the food that she had made for him, things that wouldn't go bad fast. So it took us, bus rides, train, and, just like Jeep rides. And it was bumpy this whole time. And I wouldn't get to the camp until probably noon or 1 o'clock. So it's like 12-hour trek. So I got
Wow.
there, didn't get to see him. They separated him and separated the wives that were there to visit. So they just took in the sack that my mom had prepared for my dad, the care pack. It was mostly food, dry foods. The one thing that kept good was rice, where she would squeeze it to a ball, a really hard ball, and it wouldn't spoil fast. And you would take
Right.
that rice ball and just dip it in with salt and eat. So, so I was disappointed that day. I was like, "Mom, I want to see dad. It's been years. I want to see dad. I want to see where he is." And mom's like, "We're not allowed. We needed to stay out here." And they just bring in the food. And I was not having it. I have always been born, I guess, with a really strong will. And when I want to see my dad, I'm going to see my dad. So what I did
Mhm.
was I followed one of those officers, as he was taking things back. It was inside the camp. So I followed. It's like walking like I'm strolling. And then I got caught. I got caught on a patrolman, and he's like, "No, little girl, go back. You cannot be in here." Oh, okay, okay. Well, I just need to pee. I need to find a bush somewhere. I need to pee. And then he took off. So I ran in. I went in. So there was a building, and I looked inside the window. It was a just bars window. And I saw my dad. He was just skin and bones. He was just pale. I didn't recognize him, but I knew that was him. And then there was two officers opening up all the care package that my mom had carefully prepared, all the food. And I saw them just cutting into every single thing and opening it up, just cutting. I didn't understand what they were doing. What are you doing? It's going to spoil. She packaged it up really well. And what they were looking for later on is they were looking for, like, if my mom had put gold or any other stuff to help him escape or whatever it was.
Mm.
And I had the nerves to come up to my dad with those two armed men. I'm like, and I asked him, "What are you doing? What are you doing to my dad's food? What are you, you know?" And my dad's like, "Shh, shh," he's like, don't say anything, please don't." I go, "No, I'm here to see my dad, and you're spoiling all his food. He's not able to eat." It's just, it's really, I will never forget that scene. But I got to see my dad, and they escorted me out. And they're
Right.
like, "What are you doing here, little girl?" I go, "I got lost." I said, "I got lost."
Right. And this was a shed, or was it underground? What
So
was
it
it?
was the shed that they made
Huh.
my dad and the prisoners built.
Okay. Okay.
So he was there for a short time, and they moved him to a lot of other places. So I think it's like 4 or 5 places of concentration camp that he's been at.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And then proceeding from there, obviously there was a plight to get out of Vietnam. And being a person that's so determined to go see the dad. Now, what happened thereafter? What's the story in relation to you reaching out?
Um, I was just, growing up, didn't really understand what was going on growing up, and really being loved by my families, my mom's family, my grandparents, my uncles. Everyone chipped in, gave me a lot of love because they knew that
Right.
I didn't have a father. My father and my mother, of the times of the visit, they would whisper or they would signal to each other, saying, "Okay, this is the plan." That my dad has a master plan, that if they had planned to move him to a concentration camp, and they had another plan to move him somewhere, and he knew that they moved him at that place, he's going to stay there forever until he died. They're not going to release him. So the place before that, he had signaled to my mom and said, the plans are in place, and once I get up there, I'm going to go. I'm going to mastermind. I'm going to do my little um, plan for escape out of concentration camp. So the next thing I knew was it was June 1980 that my
Mm.
dad escaped concentration camp. It's the story is that he I don't know if you watched the movie Rambo.
Yes.
It's exactly like Rambo. He would have teams, mastermind teams, in watching out for him at all the ends, and then he would cut the gates or the wires
Mm.
underneath, and he would crawl, and he'll be in a forest, and dogs and rifles and everyone running and watch and look searching for him. So he had a team of I think he escaped, and then the team that was watching out for him saw it was so easily done. The next team came and they escaped. So a team of 4 or 5. Okay, so 10 people has escaped. The third team saw it was so smooth, they want to come. They went in and they got our stuff, but at that time the moon had come up more, so it was brighter. So that third team got caught, and they were shot right right there and then.
Mm. Do you think some of the traits that you have currently acquired, I'm skipping over and coming back, traits that you've acquired currently had a impact from what happened with your dad, and obviously being attached to your mom and your grandparents, some of the values that you had implanted in there is still with you?
Definitely the will to live, the will
Mm-hmm.
to survive.
Right.
We had to do anything and everything we need to do to survive.
Right.
And it's that strong will and strong mind, that whatever we plan or whatever that we have in mind, we will achieve. Definitely, most definitely. My mom's father was a school teacher, and he became a principal. So we're in an education home.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm structured with the military. So it's really all really strong, disciplined all the time. So
I can
it
I
can
can see that being working with you for the last 3 or 4 weeks for this particular session. Some of the things that were coming out, I thought, okay, this lady's a pakka choleric, as they say, in India, South India. Pakka meaning of true and true blue choleric. That's fantastic. Yeah, with
and
strong
I'm so
leadership.
proud of my upbringing, uh the hardships that I went through. I'm just so proud of it because
Mm,
it has made me who I am today, a
yeah.
strong, strong, independent woman.
Yes, and it's an impetus for you to now continue this journey for your book.
That's right. That's right. And you're holding me accountable.
You got it, lady. You got it. You got it. Okay, moving on from there into the next segment. Your dad escaped. What happened thereafter?
So June of 1980, he
Hmm.
escaped. He somehow they At that time everyone was finding ways. All the citizens finding ways to escape. Everyone.
Right.
So we have like an underground way or tunnel of communicating. So he connected with his old military friend who was living in a sea town, an ocean town. So he
Right.
knew he had a lot of connections with boats, and he has tried to escape 2 or 3 times and unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad masterminded again a group together, built a boat with that friend, and got the captain. And we set out to sail in August of 1980. However, that was an unsuccessful sail because they picked August. That's typhoon season.
Yes.
So when we got out, we got hit with a storm, and our boat had to go close to an island called Haiphong. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
island on the west of Vietnam, and we were waiting it out for it. It took us 2 days and 2 nights from Vietnam, the coast of Đặt Giá, to Haiphong. But as soon as we stopped and wait out the storm, we got caught by the Viet Cong. We got caught by the communists. The whole boat. We got caught. We were thrown in jail. They took us back to Saigon, thrown in jail. Um, I was for 2 months. But since I was 9, yeah, I was 9. I was in jail for 10 days, and then one of my uncles came and picked me up.
Can you
That's it.
share? Can you share? Sorry to interrupt you, but while you're on this point, can you share what it was like to be in jail as a 9-year-old child?
I to me, it was just an adventure to me. In my mind, it was just an adventure. Oh, we're going on this trek and we're on an adventure. But it got serious when they start separating the males and the females. So I
Mm-hmm.
stayed with my mom, and there was a wire fence that separated us. And my mom would tell me, "Do not recognize your dad. Do not, you know, don't say anything." Because when my dad escaped from concentration camp, our family was marked for death.
Right.
So he assumed uh, different names. He assumed he was a barber. He assumed occupation. And I was not allowed to say anything. I was not allowed to, my dad said, if you want your dad alive, do not recognize him. Do not say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened. I
Right.
listened, and um, it was in a field. I remember it was in a field, and there was no beds. We were just sleeping on the muddy floor. Um, and then we work in the daytime. We would work on the fields. They would make us work on the fields.
Mm-hmm.
But as you can imagine, a 9-year-old kid, I had no concept of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when my dad was masterminding the escape, I was in the fourth grade at that time too. And I always been perfect attendance, straight A's in school, but I was missing school. So I was in jail. I was missing school,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time my teacher asked me, or is this your family trying to escape? And with me, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I
Mm.
admitted to her, I guess, yes, yes, we are. You want to come? And I went home. I went home.
We're gonna have a party, okay?
I know. And I went home and I was so proud telling my grandparents and my mom that. And they're like, oh my God, they're going to come and get us. You do not say that kind of stuff out there with no people you don't trust. But mom, that's my teacher.
I
So
know.
it's just funny when I look back, but it's just the innocence of a child that
Yes.
got thrown into that situation where I didn't really understand, but now I understand the statistics and everything. It was
Right.
really horrific time. So when you say, I think ignorance is a bliss sometimes when I
Mm.
didn't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true and that's so good. Um, this trip then, when your dad escaped the second time around, how did he get you and your mum to join forces with him? How was it? Or was they escape independent of one another?
Oh, no, no, the escape from concentration camp was one time. So he was in incognito. He was assume a different identity and he was living in a different town. He was living as a seaman or a fisherman.
Mm.
So we were in the boat to escape the first time and we got caught.
Yes. Yes.
So back in May of 1981, May of 1981 was the next voyage, the second voyage. And
Right.
throughout the planning and the voyage, we didn't know it at the time, but we were really supported by our loved ones that have been passed away. We were supported or we were protected, I know now, by Buddha, by our guardian angels, because there were a lot of signs. A lot of people just showed up and told us what to do and what days to go or what month to go for next time. And we're going to be successful the next time.
So both your parents and you actually came out of that second prison, so to speak,
Yes.
together. How did you do that?
The prison for it was 2 months. It was 2 months for trying to escape Vietnam on
Okay.
boat. I was only in prison for 10 days. My parents were
Yeah.
there for 2 months.
Right. And what got them out? How did they get out?
Well, because they were deemed not dangerous because they didn't have any military background because my dad was assuming a different identity.
Yeah, he was incognito.
Yeah. So they deemed that okay, they're just trying to escape, and they just let my parents go.
Okay. So now regrouping back in Saigon, how did you guys take the second venture on a boat?
So my dad reconnected with his friends again.
Okay.
He had a lot of friends from military. He reconnected again, and at that time, that he masterminded the second trip, and that was
Mm-hmm.
May of 1981. We set out from the city called Ya, and we go down
Yeah.
the coast
Mm.
to Gamao, and we would cross over to go to Para, it's Terengganu in Malaysia.
What was the place again?
Teran Terengganu.
Terengganu.
Oh, Terengganu. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Familiar with that. It's a beautiful spot actually for some of the viewers. It's an
yes.
excellent spot to go for a tourist resort after COVID. Okay, guys,
Oh,
remember that. Go on.
somehow my father got connected to a really good captain of the boat.
Uh
He
huh.
was very skilled, and we set out in May because we want to beat the typhoon season. Don't want to get caught in the storm in the middle of the sea again.
Mm-hmm.
And we ventured out 3 days and 3 nights. And let me tell you, David, that venture, we saw death. I saw death. And that's when it got real for me. The seas were so, you can look out the beach and it's beautiful blue, but when you're out there in that dark, in that deep seas, it's dark as night. It's black.
Mm,
It's scary. It was
mm.
scary.
Um, Kim, do you want to share the boat? I'd
Yeah.
like you to, share a little bit on the boat. Yeah.
Okay. So my dad, again, mastermind and built the boat. Then our boat was only 3.5 meters wide and
Mm-hmm.
11 meters long.
Okay.
It has a lower deck and the upper deck where, the captain and the engine. There were 34 people. We were packed in there like sardines. So I could remember the sides of the boat. We would stack each other here, and then we would just lay stacked there, and we were just like wobbling in the ocean. Didn't know, of course, I didn't know where we were going. I just saw death, and behind all the people there, who have different faiths and religion. Like
Right.
we would have our Guan Yin,
Mm.
our mother, like a mother to Maria
Yeah.
or Jesus. Then they would have them behind, all taped up all around the walls of the boat, and all I
Mm-hmm.
could hear was just chanting and praying. That's all we did. We chanting and praying. We didn't have food. We didn't have we had water, and we had tablets where you can turn seawater into drinkable water. We had that.
Mm-hmm.
um, so we ventured out to the Gulf of Thailand's sea,
Yes.
and we made that venture, and we got stopped by Thailand. I thought they were pirates twice. Okay,
Right.
but I'll tell you later. It turned out they were just fishermen. They were nice to us. I'll tell you later of the stories that happened to people who didn't make it, that really
R-
encountered real pirates of Thailand.
right. Right.
So one boat stopped us, and they made everybody get up and get into their boat. Stripped everyone. This is the most humiliating thing I've seen. If I can be frank and a little graphic, my mom was on her monthly menstrual cycle, and she was stripped. I'm like,
Mm.
what's going on, mom? What's going on? And so what they were looking for is just gold, anything that they can take from us.
Right.
They did. We had, little jewelry here and there. That's the first time they took from us. And thank goodness they let everybody go. The next day, we ran to another one. And
Oh.
we ran to another boat that stopped us. And we thought they were pirates, and they searched us, and we had nothing left. We had nothing left. So they were mad. They were mad that they didn't get anything from us. So one
Mm.
of the sailmen, one of the fishermen, took his hammer, held his hammer up, and he was about to crash and beat up on our engine, so we couldn't go anymore. And the captain, for some reason, the captain looked down, peeked down underneath the lower level, and I don't know if he saw the picture of Guan Yin, or he saw a picture of the Virgin Maria or Jesus or whatever. He held up his hand and told that man to stop. Do not destroy this boat, and to let us go.
Right.
And then they did a beautiful thing too. They cooked a pot of porridge, rice porridge. They dropped it down for us and
Wow.
fed us and bid, on our way. But during that time, their boats was really big and ours was small. If you can imagine, only 3 meters by 11 meters.
11. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like clashing to their boat. And my
Mm.
parents and all the adults and the captain was really scared and concerned that it's gonna shatter our boat and we can't go
Yes.
anymore. So at that second time was 5 p.m. on the third night, 5 p.m. So they let us go. They let us go, and then um, early morning, 5 o'clock a.m. the next morning, we start seeing seagulls, and we were just so happy because when you start seeing seagulls, you know that's land's coming up.
Yes.
So that was 5 a.m. We had a really talented captain. So as you go in closer to land, you have to go zigzag. Otherwise, the waves will take your boat and it's going to capsize.
Yes.
So the captain was really skilled. He took us, slowly, slowly, slowly in. It took us 12 hours from when we saw land until we can get off our boat.
Wow.
And that's the most dangerous too that I've learned is that when you're close to land, the waves, a lot of boats have capsized and a lot of people have died.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Getting so close and never got there.
Hmm. You see, a lot of people assume, when you look at it as a boat, that it's got all the radar and it's got all the compass and all of that.
Hmm.
But a lot of this, and I believe in this, the trade winds are the things that push the boat from where you were in Vietnam
Yes.
down the Gulf in through to north of Malaysia, which is Terengganu. And obviously the captain and your dad and whoever masterminded that would have studied the trade winds so well for it to be moving down.
Yes. Yes. They
And
they
that,
studied, so all they had was a hand compass.
yes, exactly.
That was it. And so to me now, looking back, that was a gift from God, a gift from the universe, the gift from
Yeah.
Buddha.
Mm.
To have someone so skilled to take care of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So the trip took you how long?
The trip took 3 days and 3 nights.
Okay. Okay. So once you landed in Terengganu, what
Hmm.
happened? Did the Malaysian authorities allow you? Oh, welcome. Come on in. Have some
Oh,
sake. Let's have a
oh my
meal.
goodness. We were. Let me tell you the humiliation of, I guess, being a human. We were so seasick. As soon as we got out the boat, we couldn't be on our feet. We were crawling. I was crawling on fours and just puking and crawling and crawling and hungry and everything. And so we were lucky. We were informed. They said, you stopped at the very last refugee stop. If you had gone north a little bit, it would have been a communist Malaysian or something.
Yes.
So that's the way that they told us. They said you're very lucky. This is the very last stop that we took in. So they took us in for one day, and they took us out to the boat ride to Pulau Bidong Island, and that's
Hmm.
where the concentration camp. Not the concentration camp, but the refugee camp was set up in
Right.
Pulau Budong, and we were there for 2 weeks at that island, Bidong Island. And at that
Right.
time, they were making processing us uh, paper wise to make sure that we were able to be taken in as refugee. So there was only three criteria: political, um, religious, or racial persecution. And
Right.
of course, it's political for us. We
Hmm.
plead with them. We said, if we go back, we're going to be killed right on the
Hmm.
spot, because our
Hmm.
family was marked for death
Right.
in Vietnam. And and with my dad's military background, they sent it to the U.S. Embassy. Everything checked out. So everything checked out. So they took us in as refugee. We stayed there for 2 weeks. Um, but the scene of that is still stays in my mind. If I can share a story of it, if you don't
Please
mind.
do.
Um, it was an island. There was nothing there really. We didn't have bowls, utensils, nothing to eat. So there's, those dried coconuts we would cut in half, and we would use that as a
Scoop it.
bowl
Yep.
to eat, and then with our hands. That we didn't have anything. We didn't have clothes. We didn't have anything. And the good thing was the U.S. was supporting that camp, so the Salvation Army had a lot of used clothes, so that we went
Hmm.
through the pile and we just took clothes that fit me or whatever, and that was it. And for the women, though, it was a really sad sight. Um, there's some women that, monthly they would be on the menstruation uh, cycle, and I would just see them just sitting out on a beach, not in a covered area, and just sit there because there was no napkins, there was nothing.
Right.
And that, to me, when I saw that sight, I was fortunate enough because I was only 10,
Mm.
9, 10. I was not up to that level, but I didn't understand what they were doing. They would just stand in the water until, and I would see red, in
Mm.
the water, and I couldn't understand what was going on. But later
Mm.
on, I found out what was that about.
Right. Right. What did you find when you came out of that first screening? Did they then process you to the second screening?
Yes. Yes. So when we passed that 2 weeks in Pulau Budong, we were transferred to Kuala Lumpur. And it's a refugee camp called Sungai Besi. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's in Kuala
Yes.
Lumpur.
Yep.
And we were there for 2 months,
Oh.
being processed again, just to make sure, and immunizations. They were catching up on all the immunizations, everything. And at that time is the first time that we received $100 from my uncle, who is my mom's older brother, that
Right.
has been in the United States as an exchange student since 1972. He sent us.
He's the one in Texas.
Yeah, he's the one in Texas.
Huh. Okay.
So he sent us $100
Mm-hmm.
that time in Kuala Lumpur, and that was the first time we had anything in our name.
Right.
Looking back now with the plight, I want to add another story to the less fortunate ones, like the ones that really got caught by the real Thailand pirates.
Mm.
Uh, we met a father and son there, and the father just looked like he just lost his mind. What happened was his boat got pirated uh, by Thailand. They took all the women and young girls. They took them all, and he never saw his daughter again. And the stories were that they would rape these women, young girls, and throw them overboard. So when I hear those stories of people that go through that, I'm just like, I am so fortunate
Mm.
that the two boats that we encountered were not real pirates. They were just fishermen, and they were just looking for extra money, extra gold.
Mm. You say, Kim, when you talk about pirates, the view that quite a lot of people who have not been exposed to things like this would only compare it to Pirates of Penzance or the Pirates of the Caribbean and
Yes,
think Walt Disney show, so to speak. They
yes,
really don't know what it actually means to go through such pain and then come out of it with a frame of mind that you can scale up in life. And that's why I want to work with you in this particular segment. And then in the second segment, do the comparisons of what you did with your mental strength and how you let go of the shackles to come up with the true Kim. You understand where I'm coming from in
yes,
this?
yes, yes. The pirates is like, really, they instill a lot of fear. It is like the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's
Yeah.
it's they terrorize you. They instill fear in you, and but for some reason, I was just fearless. I was just a little kid. I'm not scared of you. But
Hmm.
I see the humiliations of the adults who understood what was going on. I see their faces. I see how their spirits has been just shattered. I see everything, and that has embedded in my head, and I those pictures will never leave my
Right.
mind.
Right, right. So moving on from Malaysia, you went into Philippines. How was that journey? What happened there?
So we were It was a I think it was a plane ride. It was a boat ride. I don't
For
remember.
just one moment, please. For the viewers, I just want the viewers to know Kim has gone and done a lot of research. So when she's looking at her left-hand side, what she's doing is she's using a cheat sheet, okay, of all the data points. She had to check with her mother, she had to check with her uncles and all of that, come up with this data point so she could talk with us with some sense. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate what you're doing. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I did. I had to have a talk with my mom, but to get all this because I was young, I didn't
Hmm.
remember and understand anything. So we were transported to uh,
Huh.
Manila for 4 months, and we was in an RPC refugee camp. And it was like maybe on the outskirts of Manila, and they would educate us English. They would teach us English. They would teach us social skills of how to go grocery shopping, how to talk to people, or how to approach a counter, and or how to sit properly, because there's a huge cultural difference.
Yes.
So they educated us for 4 months. We were there in the Philippines in Manila for 4 months. During
Hmm.
that time, uh, both in Kuala Lumpur and Manila, they would let us go out to town on a night trip or something.
Right.
And I could remember the pain of seeing people eating and drinking, and I couldn't have it.
Yeah.
One particular point was I saw a Pepsi bottle opened up, and you can hear the fizz, and you can see the bubbles just going up, and I can smell the brown sugar, caramel, everything. And I looked at my mom. I said, "Mom, I want it." Mom's like, "No, we don't have any money,
You
baby."
could have left in the money. Yep.
An apple, an apple at the market, at the night market. Somebody bought an apple, and I was just standing maybe 6 feet from them. Someone bit into an apple, and I can hear that crunch, and then the juices would splatter, and I would smell that aroma.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I looked at my mom. I go, "I want an apple, mom." Mom, honey, we can't have it. So that made a mindset of lack of, we can't get something, and that it was difficult.
Hey, thank you, lady. Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much for being so open, because some of these I want to sort of talk with you at our next episode on how you unshackled those limits and how did you come out of that. Pardon me for using this term. I rarely use it on, but I think people in the audience need to understand. Come out of that shit to really scale up your life to becoming a dentist.
Yes,
Okay, so
I'm excited for that next segment.
that's good. Yeah. So in Manila, how did you get to Manila? Did they fly you over?
I think it was a boat ride too, because I remember my first plane ride was from Manila to the United States.
Right.
I
Right.
think the first time I've been on a plane is that long ride. I think it's a boat ride.
Haha. Okay. And there the treatment was fine. You had a genuine boat and stuff like that.
Yes, it was a great big boat, and they fed us, and everything was good. The best memory of Manila was that we would go to school in the morning, and then late afternoon after our siesta we would go to waterfalls and swim.
Oh, wow.
That's like the best memory I have of the refugee camp in Manila.
What a therapy. My gosh. And
Oh
that
my
would have
god.
been your trigger for your silence time and all of that thereafter.
Exactly. Yeah, and my dad would teach us, my mom and I, to swim. We don't know how to swim, and he taught us in the spring water. It's crystal clear water.
Mm, amazing to have that pristine. This is in Manila.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, outside of Manila, I remember when we'd have a trip to go to Manila, it would take about 25-30 minutes. So maybe a little bit outskirts of Manila, a little bit.
Mm, mm.
I don't remember the name of the town, but it was set up. It was compounds, buildings where we were treated very humanely, and the teachers
Right.
there, the Filipino teachers there, they were genuinely loved us. They want to
Right.
educate us, and at night they would put on disco lights and turn on disco, and we would dance. We would dance right away.
I was going to ask you that.
Those are the best two memories I have of Manila.
Right, because you see, the whole culture of Philippines is a party culture,
Yes.
and it's the image of the Spaniards. You see, that's and Spaniards and Portuguese. They are very party orientated. So when they brought some of that culture over there, because they, like the British, took charge of India and Malaysia and some of these places over there, the Portuguese and the Spaniards did, and they were culturally into partying, uh, and
Exactly.
and and that's how it's fallen in. And I've kept a segment in the next video to talk about cross culture and cross culture sensitization, and that'll be a really good episode for us to have a discussion on these things. We'll backtrack and talk on that too later.
Yes.
On in Philippines, the place that you're talking about, it wasn't Drovo, was it? Drovo?
I don't know. All I can see on my paperwork for immigration is this RPC camp. So I don't know if this is refugee something camp, and
Okay,
we had
okay,
our number. That was it.
excellent. Now, how did you manage to tolerate some of the challenges back then, and you being where you are today? I'm fast forwarding it.
Hmm.
How did you think back and say, "My God, where did I come from? Did I do all of those things?" Is your tolerance level stretched now that you can accommodate those type of issues and concerns?
That's a really good question, David. I think it built my mental strength. It built my patience. Although, up till maybe a few years ago, those who know me know that I have very short patience.
Hmm.
If I want something, I want it now, and I'm going to get it now. It has built that delayed gratification. It has built the goal or the outcome for me. If I have an outcome, I'm going to work on it,
Right.
and whatever I'm going through right now, is really temporary until I get to that outcome.
Hmm.
Everything's temporary.
Mom and dad in Malaysia,
Yes,
mom and dad in Vietnam, mom and dad in Philippines. Do you see a difference?
definitely. My mom in Vietnam, single mom, frustrated, didn't know what to do. So she yelled at me a lot. The culture was she disciplined and hit me a lot. So that really hurt my self-esteem. Like, what did I do wrong?
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't understand. But now I do see with compassion. I see in her shoes where she was.
Hmm.
She was lost. I mean, I can imagine at the age of 20 something, you're left with a small child and no husband, don't know where your husband is. And my dad, of course, he was a stick. He was starved for 5 years, and I think that has contributed to a lot of his health issues when he got to the United States.
Right.
My mom in Kuala Lumpur, my parents in Kuala Lumpur were still reserved and still very unsure because we didn't know we were going to be accepted as refugees. But the best time we had, I see what my parents really relaxed was in the Philippines.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it was like the best 4 months of our lives
Hmm.
together.
Right. Basically, that's where your family, you can recall good memories of your family out of all of that 9 years or 10 years prior.
Right, right. That's good memory of my family. That 4 months
Hmm.
together.
And your dad did make it to US, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad. So my parents in the U.S. Where it totally changed too because we're in a new country. We have
Yeah.
nothing. You don't know the language. We don't know how to drive. So they had to start from the beginning to where when
Hmm.
we arrived to the U.S., we just had a T-shirt and a pair of flip flops. We didn't have a jacket. We landed in Oakland, San Francisco, so it was cold. It was
Right.
the end of November, December, and they gave us jackets to wear. which my dad still kept until his dying
Wow.
day. He wears it
Wow.
every single winter. And I
Mm.
keep telling him, Dad, it's okay to let it go. He go, no, this is my
Wow.
freedom.
Amazing, amazing. As I said, my affinity with a lot of refugees stems back to both my parents. In the medical profession, they did a lot of refugee work in Malaysia, and obviously now in Australia, I cater and take care and work with a lot of refugees too. So that's what stemmed me to look at this option of showcasing some of the things that we do not know, most of the sufferings that have gone past. And it's not just to grill down on pain, it's more for people to identify with it and then see how they can utilize that to scale themselves up. And I do hope the audience understands that. That's really good, Kim, and I truly, truly appreciate what you have done. And more than that, for you to open up and share so much of inner secret, so to speak. And I know it's painful, but it's probably one way of having some breakthroughs and transformations.
Definitely. And I thank you for this opportunity because I've learned lately that the more open and the more vulnerable I am, the more helpful it is for me. And the more
Mm.
helpful it is for others, where
Mm.
others will relate to me, and maybe I can help one life, two lives, or thousands of lives.
Mm. Mm. I'd like to open up an agenda for the next discourse that we're going to have, and we would like to sort of compare what is free enterprise in the US now
Okay.
to the communism that you came from,
Okay.
and
Okay.
how you capsule that, to get
Okay.
to where you want to go in life, and that's vital. And obviously, how you had to work on yourself with limiting beliefs and change in those transformed years,
Definitely.
and where you are today. It's a huge credit to you, being able to what I call build your way through that pain.
Thank you though. Thank you for the compliment, but I don't feel or think of myself of anything extraordinary. I just had to do what needed to be done at any particular point.
Hmm.
So, it's just I'm an ordinary person living an ordinary life, but to me, but others might think otherwise.
Hmm. Hmm. Your story is coming out in a book, and we will look forward to that. But before that, we will be having another chat with you in the forthcoming week, same time, same day. Ladies and gentlemen, same channel again. Thank you so much, Kim, and truly appreciate your help in sharing your story to the world.
I thank you. I thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Good. Take care now.